Hey, good evening. It's good to be with you. Guys, I want to tell you, it's been extremely busy down here. Yeah, last night we were in Roma, Texas, and about 11 p.m. we began watching as 100+ people in multiple groups began crossing from the Miguel Alemán side into Roma, Texas. And looking at some of the exclusive video we shot, you can see here, it was a really humbling thing. I mean, we saw children as young as 5 months old. And what was happening down here is the river's a lot lower than it usually is. So the Cartel de Golfo that operates in this area was not forced to bring them across on rafts. They literally lined them up and in lines, just walked them right across into the United States. Now, one of the interesting things here is that most of them were not Mexican, Guatemalan, and Honduras like we always see. What we saw last night were Cubans, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. And the ones we spoke to said that they had paid the smugglers between $3,000 and $5,000 to cross, and that most of them wanted to go to either Houston, Texas, Virginia, or Atlanta, Georgia. So it was extremely busy last night. But I want to also say one thing. You know, as somebody that knows this area very well and knows how these smugglers operate, when you see these people, you know, the fact that our government is allowing this to take place, because what these smugglers do to these people, especially a lot of these unaccompanied minors we saw last night, a lot of young teenage girls with no one with them except each other, it's pretty frustrating. It really is. And, you know, there are secondary and third effects to what you're seeing play out there, because not only are they being trafficked into the United States, and yes, I want to say that again, that is not human smuggling you're seeing, that's trafficking because of those exorbitant fees I just talked about. What happens is all of the law enforcement agents, and we were down there with them, they're forced to process all those people very rapidly and quickly to get them out of these extreme environments. And so then upriver and downriver, you watch as single males and single females who are runners, they cross and they make it into the country because there's no law enforcement available. So it was extremely busy last night.
Grief, good grief. Jason Jones, live in the Rio Grande City area in the great state of Texas tonight. Thank you for that report. Appreciate it. Folks, what you're seeing right there, Democrat values on parade, on display, children getting exploited and sexually assaulted, all with the blessings of the Democrat Party and their leader in the White House. Joining me now to weigh in is Goliad County, Texas Sheriff Roy Boyd and Pinal County, Arizona Sheriff Mark Lamb. Gentlemen, welcome to the both of you. Sheriff Lamb, we're going to start with you. This is disgraceful. This is disgusting. And now with Title 42, which, by the way, you folks need to know out there, this is a health restriction. We had to, the Republicans and the Democrats had to say, well, because of the China virus, we had to restrict the flow over the border. We had to stop illegal immigration. Sheriff Lamb, I thought that's what illegal immigration laws were for.
It is what they're supposed to be for, but when you don't enforce them, you get chaos. And Jason nailed it. Like, I've worked with Jason, and Jason and I share a lot of information with each other. Jason understands this as much as we do along the border here. And he's right. Look, this is not about immigration. It's about human trafficking and drug trafficking. And when you don't enforce the law, it sends a message throughout the world that the cartel, by the way, is taking advantage of, because they're advertising in these other countries to come here, because, like Jason says, they're making about $3,000 to $5,000. Here along the Arizona border, it's about $5,000 to $6,000 per body. So our government is contributing to that, and removing Title 42 will only make that even worse. Look, this is a disaster already. It's set to get a lot worse.
Right, because Joe Biden has no plan. He's going to take away Title 42. Sheriff Boyd, you've got Democrats along the Texas border, Henry Cuellar and a lot of Democrat judges down there saying, stop, you're destroying our communities down here. Biden says, I don't give a damn about Latinos and their communities being destroyed in Texas. What do you say, Mr. Boyd?
I say they're exactly right. They're destroying the fabric of our society. We are transitioning ourselves from a free republic to a Marxist communist state. And that's what this really boils down to. People say Biden doesn't have a plan. I'm going to call bull. He has a plan, and the plan is working brilliantly. They're replacing our current population with this population of indentured servants. The sheriff is right. Mr. Jones is right. This is not immigration. What this is slave trade. We're importing a peon class into our country, and we're going to pay dearly for it. Nobody knows that better than the people right along the Rio Grande border.
And Sheriff Lamb, guess who's going to be stuck with the tab? The American taxpayers are going to be stuck with a tab from all of this. Our communities are going to be destroyed. The rule of law is going to be destroyed. And here comes Joe Biden, who's racking up massive debt as we're speaking in his Democrat Party, massive debt. The Republicans are nowhere to be found. Mr. Lamb, this is going to be a massive problem that we're all going to be paying for years to come, yes?
Chris, you're exactly right. The financial toll that this will take on our communities and on this country is exorbitant. The other issue that we're dealing with is that the leading cause of death amongst 18 to 45-year-olds right now are fentanyl poisonings. And yet we do nothing. We had 100,000 civilians die over the last year. These are women, children, teenagers, babies, grandparents. We say nothing about it. The mainstream media, the government says nothing, but all they do is talk about people over in Ukraine. All the while, they completely turn a blind eye to the deaths amongst the civilians here caused by the fentanyl that these cartels are trafficking across the southern border.
Sheriff Boyd, there was a press conference put on by Republican senators. Senator John Cornyn led these Republicans coming out, flapping their gums, saying, Joe Biden needs to recognize all the harm he's doing to the American people. He needs to recognize this. He needs to reform our asylum laws, knowing full well that, A, the Republican Party joined the Democrats to institute these stupid and vacuous asylum laws, number one. Number two, this idea that Joe Biden doesn't know all the harm that he's doing. Are you buying that, Sheriff Boyd?
I'm not buying any of it. You know, I don't really pay attention to what the morons in Washington, D.C. say. They're trying to sell us propaganda as they transition us out of our free republic. You look down on the border right now, as Title 42 gets ready to come to an end, as of 3 weeks ago, people in Border Patrol told me there were 170,000 people just on the other side of the Rio Grande Valley sector waiting for Title 42 to come to an end. They've been signaled ahead of time that it's coming to an end. Our government is communicating with people who are helping the cartel. And then that number is only growing. Just day before yesterday, I met with Border Patrol who told me they're apprehending 7,000 people a day along the U.S.-Mexico border. That comes out to 2.5 million a year. They're telling me there is absolutely no Border Patrol working along the border outside of acting as welcoming parties for the ones that turn themselves in. They still believe they're probably catching about 1 out of 10 people who illegally cross into this country. That's a scary thought. I talked to one sheriff yesterday here in Texas who just intercepted 35,000 fentanyl pills, to go with Sheriff Lamb was saying. 35,000 fentanyl pills in one traffic stop. Imagine the lethality of that kind of dose. In our area, wow, we've had 5 people fall out from fentanyl exposure in the last 2 weeks.
Good grief. From the drugs, from the humanitarian crisis, from the national security crisis, to the public health crisis, because guess what? The China virus is still with us. Gentlemen, not one of those Republican senators called for impeachment proceedings of the occupier of the Oval Office who is facilitating open breaking of laws, making our country complicit and partners with narco-terrorists and human smugglers. How really committed is the Republican Party to actually solving this problem? I submit to you that they're just out there flapping their gums. They just want to administer it. They don't want to solve the problem. Sheriff Mark Lamb, Sheriff Roy Boyd. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. And at least you're still serving your communities.
Hey guys, it's Rob Carson. Experts are warning the current 40-year inflation high will only get worse. See how to protect your IRA with gold. Get a free info kit like this one at birchgold.com/Newsmax. There's no cost. There's no obligation. Just get your free info kit at birchgold.com/Newsmax.